Hello everybody and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be doing my April 2025 wrap up, and I have to say it was a bad reading month. It was a very, very bad reading month. I feel like I've had I feel like I haven't had an amazing reading month yet this year, but I haven't had anything that's been like, oh my god, this has been a terrible, terrible reading month. This was a bad reading month. I read 17 books, but I had 3 of them were 1 stars. I had 3 1 stars. I think I had 3 DNFs, 4 DNFs, and I just didn't have a great time with a lot of these. Like I'm not gonna really rant. I'm just tired. Like I'm tired. I am already kind of like past these books. I'm already in May, and I'm kind of just like reading short, fun things in May right now to make up for how much I hated April. And I don't get it because the 1 stars and the DNFs are pretty much all books that I thought I would absolutely love. So I just I'm annoyed. Like I'm actively so annoyed about April as a reading month. Cause like I know the ongoing joke about me being this DNF queen and I just DNF so much stuff, but I don't want to. Like that's the thing. I do, and I do it for my purge videos, but I don't like actively actually want to be DNFing this stuff. Like I want to love everything that I read. If every single thing that I read was a 5-star, I would be having the best time ever. The problem is that definitely did not happen this month. I did have a 5-star. I just don't know if it's like a of all time kind of thing, but I did enjoy it a lot while I was reading it. So anyway, we're just gonna get into it. I also did have a reread at least, but that was a disaster in itself. So we'll get to that. First, let's talk about our DNFs for this month. So the only non-physical DNF that I have is I tried to read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I had an arc of it. It's probably, this one and another one are probably, honestly, actually now looking at these DNFs, I'm not really mad at any of them. They just weren't for me except for one. There is one that I am kind of mad about. When the Wolf Comes Home is basically following our main character who is kind of down on her luck a little bit. Like I'm trying to remember exactly how it started because I remember the stuff after it started because it's a very thrillery horror book, but it's following a female character who kind of accidentally gets herself into this situation by trying to help this kid. A kid shows up, then something else shows up, and it kind of, the story goes from there. I really don't want to say anything about this book because this is a book where it is better if you go into it kind of blind. I will say though, it is very gory. It is very gory, which kind of immediately put me off. But on top of that, it's also basically just a chase, the whole book, which is not something I'm necessarily interested in. And then on top of that, there is a main character who is a child and they are very annoying. And I feel like it is part of the book that they're this annoying, but I couldn't stand it. You guys know how I feel about kids and books. They have to be very specifically done, and this one was like very specifically done to the point that I hated them. And I just wasn't feeling it. So with the gore combined with just a very thrillery type of horror, when I'm more of like a psychological creepy horror type person, and then the kid aspect of it, I just couldn't do it. I think I got about 50% into this book, so I probably could have pushed through, but it hit a certain thing that happened and I was like, this is a bit ridiculous. This is a bit ridiculous. So I did end up DNFing that at about 50%. Then we ended up reading The Prince Without Sorrow, and I did DNF this one pretty fast. I do think this one could be for a lot of people, but I had some issues with the writing. I had issues with how many characters that there were. Oh my gosh, there were so many characters. I don't know if I've read a book in a while that had this many characters. I had 2 like shopping list pieces of paper filled with characters, and I was continually adding more. So this is following 2 different main characters. One is she's a, I don't want to get the name of them wrong. What are they? Mayarathi? Is that what they're called? But they're basically witches. So we're following what's going on with her. They are an outlawed group of people. And then we're following one of the princes of like the current regime who doesn't necessarily believe in what his family is doing. Like he is more of a pacifist type character. So he doesn't like basically the attempt at extinction of these Mayarathi people by his father and the rest of his family for that matter. So it has a very interesting concept. I just feel like it didn't really go anywhere, and I just majorly struggled with following what was happening. Like I had a really, really hard time, especially there's a point that something happens and I was like, what is happening? So I think this is for more patient people who have a really, really good eye for detail and they're able to pick up every little thing that is happening. I very much struggled with this, but I did have a couple of people say they really enjoyed this. So I'm glad that they enjoyed it. It just wasn't for me. Then I attempted, again, I'm not mad at this one. I attempted Wild Dark Shore. I have a couple of people that said to read this. I'm not reading it, guys. Guys, I'm not reading it. I really didn't like it. I really didn't like it. I already spoiled myself for the ending, so there's no point in attempting to read it again. I just don't like the writing. This is going to be for a specific group of people. I think a lot of people are enjoying this, and I love that. That's fantastic. I did not like the writing at all. I could not get past the writing. It was annoying me. I couldn't do it. This is following a lot of different main characters too. I also normally have an issue with many different multiple main characters, so I struggle with that as well. It has to be done very specifically for me to like it. So this is following a group of characters that lives on this kind of like abandoned island, and the purpose of them is to take care of a seed bank. So it's where the world sends all of their extinct, rare, common, all the different seeds of the planet. So if something happens, they can reseed a new planet, I guess, or this one if an apocalypse situation happens. So this island is now sinking and they are on the cusp of moving, going with the seed bank and stuff when someone washes up on shore. And then it's kind of like this mystery that continues throughout to that point. I did not care. I did not care because I couldn't get past the writing. This is one of those books that's just written in such a specific way, and I hated it. And that's not against the author. Like, it's not written badly. It's just such a strange way of writing a story, and I didn't like it. And then the surprise. The surprise one, this was in my book of the month purge, so I would check that out because it is a very long rant if you want to hear more about it. If you don't, I would not. Go find that section because I rant about this book, and I know a lot of people absolutely love this book, but I did DNF just for the summer, probably 160, 100. It was far into this book. I was very far into this book because I thought about just finishing it, and then I was like, I can't do it. I can't do it. But it is following our two main characters, and I can't even remember their names. It is Emma and Justin, and I love the concept of this book. I think this book would have been so good if it was kept light, like Yours Truly and Part of Your World, with like a smaller section of trauma. But yeah, it is following Emma and Justin. They both have this curse where anyone that they date, they break up, that person finds their soulmate for the rest of their lives. So they decide that they want to date each other so that when they break up, they will both find their soulmate, and that's kind of the idea behind the whole story. The problem is, that is not important. After they meet, none of that is important. It is literally all about their trauma. Like, that is what this book becomes. So the main storyline becomes Emma's mom shows up, and Emma and her mom have major issues. Emma had to go into foster care due to her mom kind of disappearing for days on end. And Emma keeps finding it within herself to forgive her and bring her back into her life, and it kind of affects every aspect of her life, including her friends. And that's when I start having a problem with this book. Like, I get the purpose of this book is for Emma to find herself and kind of separate from her mom, whatever. I don't care when every aspect of this book is the toxic positivity to the max. Like, I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I would go watch that video. If you want to see what I said about it, you can go watch the Book of the Month Purge video. I don't want to reiterate here, but basically I had a problem with Emma's toxic positivity, where no one was allowed to basically be upset or angry or have feelings at all. They were always supposed to be happy and choose empathy in every situation, which is highly unrealistic, and that's how you get bottled up anger, and that's how you end up breaking chairs and walls. You don't do that. So I had a lot of problems with how she talked to Justin and other characters. I also didn't like the way that she led her life led to other people around her suffering because of her choices. And I just had a lot of problems with this book. I had so many problems with this book. And then on Justin's side, you're dealing with his mom and his family issues as well. So I just did not want to read a book like this. I didn't. This isn't what I signed up for when I thought about Abby Jimenez. If I had, I don't even think I would have liked it if I had adjusted expectations. Because this is not a rom-com. This is a rom-com for like 50 pages. And then the rest of this book is just like depressing. It just is. Like, it is just you sitting there like, oh my gosh. So I have my expectations adjusted for her next book. So hopefully I'll like that one better. Mainly my problem was the female main character. The FMC, I just really didn't like her, so I DNF'd it. Okay, moving on to books that I actually read this month. We have, like I said, I read 17 books, and only three of them are books that I don't own. That's actually pretty cool. So let's start as usual with the worst books of the month. And I do try to go in order, so I'm gonna say this is my worst book of the month, and it is Armada. This is a huge surprise because I love Ready Player One, and I loved Ready Player Two. I know a lot of people didn't like Ready Player Two. They didn't think it lived up to Ready Player One. I liked both of them. The Ready Player Two, the John Hughes part of that book is my favorite part in either of those books, so I have to love Ready Player Two, but I went into Armada. It's a book that I read with my husband. He had already read it and he kind of remembered liking it. So he was like, okay, if you liked Ready Player One and Ready Player Two, let's read this one. So we started reading this one and both of us were kind of like, this isn't anything like Ready Player One. It's very, the writing just isn't as good. It's not anywhere as interesting as Ready Player One. The references are definitely like there to 80s stuff and 90s stuff, but they're not as seamlessly put into the story. The story is not fun. It kind of doesn't really make a lot of sense either, like the decisions that were made. And then it kind of goes from a more lighthearted tone to about 70% in. It gets depressing. Like, it's depressing, and I despise the ending. I just did not like how pretty much anything in this book was done. So because of how angry I was also at the end, and there was almost no payoff for this book, to like, and it was a slog. It was a slog to get through this book. I think we read this book for 4 months. Because I didn't want to listen to it. So anytime we went somewhere, we would try and put it on in the car, and I'd be like, I don't want to listen to this. Like, I literally don't want to listen to this at all. Not interested in it. So I have to give this a 1 because this was actually so bad that I'm reluctant to pick up anything else that he's written. I don't even know if he has written anything else besides this in Ready Player One and Two. I don't know, but I would be very suspect to pick up another thing by him after how much I hated this. And I forgot to tell you what Armada was about. It's following our main character, Zach, and his father died when he was young, and he has always kind of wanted to be like his dad and know his dad, so he got into stuff that his dad was into, which was video games. And basically they find out that these video games are simulating something that is happening in real life, and it's in an alien invasion story. So if you couldn't tell, it's kind of like a Galaga kind of thing, which I loved that idea. It just, overall, the whole story didn't work. Next up, I read Cold Eternity, which I also gave a 1 star. This was a audio ARC ALC. Thank you. You guys were great. This is advanced listener copy. I could not figure that out to save my life. The last video. I felt so dumb because everyone was commenting it, and I was like, yeah, that would make sense. that would make sense. When an ARC is an advanced reader copy, advanced listening copy. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you guys for telling me that. I had an ALC of Cold Eternity by S.A. Barnes, and you know what? It sucked. It really sucked. Which is sad because Dead Silence is so good. Like, I still would recommend Dead Silence. It's one of my favorite horror sci-fis that I've read. It's so creepy and scary and fantastic. And then you have this one, which, man, this had moments of genius. It's following our main character who is running from something. You do find out later what it is, and I still don't know if I could tell. I don't know if I could actually spoil this book for you, because I don't know if I could tell you what happens, because I didn't understand it. This book is so politics heavy. It is crazy. But she is running from something, and she ends up getting this kind of illegal job on this ship. It's basically a ship where there's a bunch of cryogenically frozen people, and it's run by this company, and this guy needs her help to kind of run some stuff on the ship. And so she's like, oh, this is a perfect place to hide. So she goes there, and then creepy stuff happens from there. Something is going on with the ship and stuff on the inside. And there were moments. There was one moment where I was like, oh my God, this is gonna be terrifying. This is absolutely gonna be terrifying. And then it dropped all of that. Like, there was this moment in the hallway, and I was just like, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. I'm not gonna sleep tonight. So I loved that. But then from that point on, it wasn't even remotely scary, and it took such a bizarre turn. I could not stand the direction that this headed, and I feel like she was trying to make it so that it was different from other books that she's written, but it just made it weird. It was just weird, the decision that the author decided to make for this book. And it, like, I told my husband about it, and he was like, what? Did you read 2 separate books, like, accidentally? Because that's what it felt like. The first half, I was like, okay, I'm kind of in it. And then the second half of the book, I was like, what is this? Like, what is this? This is so weird. So I wish she had stuck with that horror element, the very first horror element on the ship. So good. So good. Disturbingly creepy. And it just kind of went nowhere, sadly. So that was a 1 star, also a slog to get through after that 50% mark. Then the final 1 star that we had, also in my March reading all my book box books, and this was also our lazy book club pick. Oh, not great. Our Infinite Fates. I really, really despised the ending of this one. So this is following our main character, Evelyn, and it's not, it's not following Arden technically because we're not in their perspective. So I would say it is mostly following Evelyn. You are rooting for Evelyn in this story, but it is kind of following our 2 characters, Evelyn and Arden, and they are destined to live life until they're 18 over and over and over again. And then before they hit 18, they are destined to each other. The idea sounds great. Sounds great. But what this story ended up feeling like is like a Stockholm Syndrome toxic relationship where they're kind of just stuck with each other and therefore they love each other for unknown reasons. Like, I never understood why they actually loved each other other than that they were stuck in this time loop together. Like, there was literally no other reason. No other reason. And honestly, some of these timelines, it was like, you should hate each other. You should actually hate and despise each other. It is disturbing what happens in some of these timelines, especially to Evelyn. Like, Evelyn should never forgive Arden for some of the things that happen in here. So I had such a problem with the romance, and the point of this was to feel the romance. The only thing that this book does well is the LGBTQ plus rep, because these characters are, the idea kind of is like a soul is a soul no matter what body you're in. So both characters are non-binary. I would say Arden, because Arden does talk about preferring a masculine body. So I would say Arden is like they, him, them, they, he. And Evelyn, I would say, Evelyn does go by she quite a bit in this book. How they describe themselves, I would say Evelyn is more of a non-binary character. And so they were constantly switching genders of bodies and how they look, etc. But a soul is still the soul. They are still the same person as they go through these lifetimes. So that is the only thing that I was willing to put it to a 2-4 because I thought that was done really well. But oh my god, I hated the end. I hated the end. I felt like nobody won. I feel like everyone suffered through this book, and I really hated how it ended. I just wanted a more satisfying ending, especially for Evelyn, and this just took a direction I didn't like. I really didn't like. So that is also a 1 star. Moving into our 2 stars for the month, the very first one is Pictures of You. I was reading this for booktubers. I picked booktubers' favorite books, or I was influenced. That's what it was. I was influenced. I think it's influenced episode 2. Yeah, because episode 1 was the DNFs. So episode 2 is I had 3 booktubers, and this was Jan Agaton's one of their 5-star books, and I loved how they talked about the book. So I was like, I have to get it. So I ended up picking it up, and I ended up giving it a 2 star. I just don't like how the story was structured. I ended up getting really, really bored throughout a lot of the book, and I also just really didn't like the ending. So it's following our main character, and it's kind of told in these 2 separate timelines. So in the current timeline, she has no memory of things after she's like 17 or 16, something like that. So she's trying to piece together what her life is, and all she knows is that her husband is currently dead, and she's trying to figure out who her husband was to her and who all these people are, and it seems like her life fell apart from the point when she was 16. Like, nothing is the same. And then the other half of this is us from that point of forgetting and kind of learning her story as the book is going on. And so again, really love the idea behind this one, but I was kind of creeped out by the romantic interest. Like, this is told almost through the perspective of a romance, and I didn't really like that. Like, I didn't like the guy who was like actively courting her in the current day. And then on top of that, I was kind of just bored for the rest of the book. Like I just was like, it's fine. It's fine. And then I didn't really like how it ended. So I was just not feeling it. I feel like it was just such an anticlimactic end for what the rest of the story was kind of building the story up to be about. And I feel like the story ended up being about something completely different than what the book started out supposed to be about. I just didn't like how it was told. That's pretty much what it comes down to. I didn't like how it was told. I think this could have gone, I think this would have been better if it had went in a much more dramatic direction, and it just didn't do that. It just felt very flat at the end. Next, I finally got around to Never a Hero, but let's talk about my reread. So I did end up rereading Only a Monster, which you guys know I feel like is one of my favorite books. I'm downgrading it. I'm downgrading it because I hate the rest of the series. I hate the rest of the series. So I am going to downgrade this to a 4. I still really liked it, but upon a reread, I was like, it was a soft 5. And then I read Never a Monster and then skimmed the ending of the 3rd book because I got an arc of it. Because I noticed this book, the 2nd book, heading in a direction I did not like. And I was correct. I was correct. And it's just not personally for me where the series heads. So I had to downgrade this. So I ended up downgrading this. I reread this, downgraded it to a 4. And then, like I said, I read Never a Hero, and I did give this a 2. It was so boring. This book was pointless. A lot of it was rinse and repeat of the first book. It kind of absolutely destroyed what I loved in the first book. The first book had an amazing romance. Like, it was such a dramatic romance. And I can see that she meant the series to go in this direction the whole time, but I think people are gonna hate that last book. People are really gonna hate that last book. And this is for an unreleased vlog. I still don't know if I'm actually gonna finish it. It's reading sequels. It just, that whole vlog kind of went off the rails, so I don't even know if I'm gonna release it. I may save the footage, and whenever I open a Patreon or membership, that may just go on there. Because I don't know. I didn't really like how the video went. Yeah, so I talked about spoilers in there, and I don't want to talk about spoilers here, obviously, if you guys want to continue this series. But I would definitely look at where the romance is going if you have, because again, I just don't like where it went. I don't like where it went. A lot of people are going to be really, really disappointed with where the romance is going. If you like this type of romance, you're gonna love it. You're gonna absolutely love the series. But for me, I was not a fan. I was not a fan of it. So sadly, I DNF'd this series. It is no longer a favorite series or book. Like this, I would not classify this as a favorite book anymore. I am actually gonna get rid of my copies, which is really, really sad. I never thought I would say that. But I'm glad I got an arc of the 3rd book, so I wasn't tempted to actually buy it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. Like, I don't even want to talk about them anymore. So reread, and Never a Hero was a 2-star, and then I did skim and DNF the 3rd one, which I don't even remember the name of it. I think it was like Always a Villain, whatever. So disappointed. And then the final 2-star, we read this also for our reading all of our March book box books. We had Where Shadows Meet. This one could have been a 3-star for a lot of the book, but this one had so many problems with plot and things happening that I honestly, another one that I don't know if I could tell you what actually happened in this book. So this is following I would say 3 main characters in here, because the 4th main character is brought up but does not have their own perspective. So we have, there's a lot. I'm trying to see if I can remember. We had Thana, who is a main character but not. We have Naja. We have, who else? Is it Leia? Nope. It begins with an L. Layla, Naja, and then, her name is hard to say. Favre, because it's like Brett Favre, but they don't say it like Brett Favre. It's like the French pronunciation. It's like Favre, I think. So it's following those 4 kind of different main characters, and you have Favre and Thana, who are kind of like a before timeline with them doing certain things in the present, and then you have Layla and Naja, who are like the main characters in this story, who are doing stuff in the present and trying to work together to save somebody. And then there's also like vampire things happening. Like I said, don't know if I could 100% tell you what happened in the story, which is why it gets a 2-star, because it did go off the rails pretty early on. I feel like there was absolutely no world building in this story, so it was really hard to keep track of why things were happening. So there's like there was a big war, and now there's time of peace, but a lot of people are super, super unhappy. And I was like not 100% sure why any of this stuff was happening. It was kind of trickled to you throughout the story, but that made it kind of hard to follow along why everything was happening still. I generally liked the story. The romance I still was kind of meh on, but I do think where this book ended, I think the second one could be really, really interesting. So I am definitely going to attempt the second one because I'm interested enough to see where it's going to go. And the people I am more interested in are going to be the characters in the second book. So I am curious what's going to happen. It did leave off on a bit of a cliffhanger, so I want to see what's going on. Moving into our 3-star books, we have Everything is Tuberculosis by John Green. I think if you are a beginner in infectious diseases, this is going to be really, really interesting for you, and you're really going to enjoy it. Unfortunately, my master's degree is literally infectious diseases, public health with a specialization in infectious diseases. So this was a lot of very, very basic information, kind of just packaged in a very simple way. And my other problem is this feels like it's written by a celebrity. Like, do you know how celebrities get really, really involved in causes? And it's really great because they're bringing awareness to it. But a lot of them miss the more technical aspects of things or the more complicated aspects of things. This feels like that. Like, he gives a way to solve the tuberculosis problem in the world, but he misses so many intricate aspects that make it so that's why we haven't really solved the problem. So he lives kind of in this a little bit of a fantasy world where it's like, if we just did this, everything would be solved. And it's like, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. There are literally global entities that have been trying to solve this problem for so long. And trust me, they have come up with what you have said, and it did not work. So he definitely simplifies the problem, I think, quite a bit throughout this book. I didn't like that aspect of the book. What I liked was actually him being in these other countries and talking to survivors or talking about people who are victims of this disease. And I loved him talking about the history of it. And I loved all that. And I think that's where the book should have stayed. And I think if he really wanted to add that problem-solving aspect of it, I think he needed to talk to global health organizations. He focused on talking to doctors, which is great, but sometimes doctors are so focused on their patients, sometimes they don't see the whole thing. So he really needed to talk to some public health officials. Like, he really didn't talk to really many public health people, and that's who you're going to want to talk to get the whole problem, because it's not just tuberculosis that's going on in these other countries. There are so many other comorbidities and other problems that are also being dealt with at the same time, which is why it is hard to just focus on one thing. Like, if we could just focus on tuberculosis, that'd be great. But malaria is a massive problem. Like, he kind of glossed right over malaria. He was like, yeah, this person had it like 3 times. And I'm like, you don't get it. You don't get how big of a problem malaria is. Like, you kind of like just said it like it's almost like a flu. Like, they just get it. And it's like, no. No. That is such a big problem. And a lot of resources go to also fighting that. So not all of our resources can go to just one thing. So I think he definitely simplifies it by not taking into consideration everything else that's going on in these countries and the other diseases, etc. So I didn't love that aspect of it. I kind of just wish he had stuck to the history and the importance and the emotional impact of it instead of trying to solve the world's problem of tuberculosis himself. So that's kind of where I ran into an issue. So I gave it 3 stars. I also ended up reading The Bog Wife. This was a 4-star for most of this book, but I really didn't like the ending. This is following many different main characters. I think it's like 5 main characters, and they're all part of this family who owns this bog. And the idea is that they have this history of apparently the bog will create a wife for the patriarch of the family, and that's kind of where the story starts and goes from. And again, I just didn't like the ending. I think this could have been really good. I actually think this would have been an amazing novella with a sapphic bog wife story. That's what I wanted to read. I feel like that would have been good. I feel like that's what the cover is promising. But where this goes instead is just kind of, it focuses a lot on generational trauma, which I think is really good and it's done pretty well. But I think the ending undermined the generational trauma aspect of this a little bit. So if it wanted to go in that direction, it should have stuck with that. If it wanted to go in the Bog Wife direction, it should have been a novella with a kind of a sapphic story. So that's why I kind of had a problem with this one, but I actually did overall enjoy this one. I had a good time with this one. Next up, I finally have caught up on Alex Michaelides. I think at this point I have read all of his books. Silent Patient is one of my favorite thrillers. I gave it a 5-star. I think The Maidens I also gave a 3-star. I really liked it, and The Fury is also getting a 3-star. I do think this one is my least favorite out of the 3, but I still really liked it. I liked that he tried something different with this story. I also liked the little bit of a tie-in with the Silent Patient. It's very minimal, and I would have missed it if I wasn't like looking for it, because this feels very Silent Patient. It's just not done as well. But this is definitely more Silent Patient than it is The Maidens. But this is following our main character, who is he a writer? What does he do? Like, what does he do? But it breaks the fourth wall a lot. Narrator talks to you a lot. It is definitely one of those unreliable narrator situations. And I really like how the story was told, but I did get a little bit bored with the repetitive nature. So they're all going to this Greek island and somebody ends up dead. The story is figuring out how we got to this point, but it's all told through his perspective. And yeah, it is like a play. And every kind of section, he's like, oh, we need to go back and I need to fix this. And I'm like, it's so interesting how the story unfolds, but because we're repeating some stuff, it does get a bit repetitive. You could kind of tell what was going to happen at the end, so it was a little bit anticlimactic just because yeah, you kind of knew what was happening at the end. But I still very much enjoyed this. I would recommend this as a quick, like, popcorn thriller. It was a great time. Moving on, we have a 3.75, The First Sister. This I read for, I think, the Influence series. This was Riley Marie. She loved this book. And yeah, this is actually really, really good. The only reason I knocked down the rating is I just didn't love the end. Again, the romance kind of got me in this. But yeah, we're following our 2 different main characters, I would say. One is the first sister, who is part of this very cult-like organization, and this is sci-fi, and she is working on this ship and she's trying to survive. And then the other storyline is following a disgraced war hero, kind of, or disgraced soldier, and he is given a mission to redeem himself, and it is like an impossible mission. So it's following both of those storylines, and they are very separate storylines, and then it's a really neat way that they're brought together at the end. So I think this story is so well done. This has some of the best world building. Like, I understood everything in this world. It was so good. But like I said, the ending kind of did bring it down for me a bit with the romance aspect of this. I totally forgot fan service. Fan service, 3-star. Oh, whoops. So this, yeah, this was better than fan service. So fan service, I actually originally DNF'd. But then I was like, okay, reading Our Infinite Fates, which was terrible. So I want to read something very just quick, because I got to 50% into Our Infinite Fates and was like, I hate this. So let's read something else for now. So I ended up picking this back up, and I'm glad I did, because I gave it a 3-star. I ended up having a lot of fun with this. This is following our 2 main characters. We have, I just read this, Alex and what's his name? I feel like they don't use his name that much. Devin. Alex and Devin. And Alex is a vet tech and was a huge fan of Devin's show back in the day, the Arcane Files, I think. Yeah, that's what it's called. And so in her storyline, she is just a vet tech minding her own business, and she kind of gets roped into Devin's story because Devin suddenly is starting to turn into a werewolf. And so she and him are trying to figure out what's going on and how it's related to the Arcane Files. And it's... I'm trying to describe this book. Devin is one of the most unlikable MMCs I've ever read. Like, he is a man-child. He is terrible. I despise him as a character, and he is the only reason I DNF'd it. He's just gross. He's an idiot. He's a baby. Like, he is a child that Alex has to take care of the whole book. And they do go into Devin's, like, backstory about why he's this way, but it doesn't really make up for his behavior. Like, he's 42 years old. Like, you need to grow up. Like, you have hit the point where it's like, no, you need to get your shit together. So that's kind of why I didn't like this book and I DNF'd it. But at about the 50% mark, it does get cuter. It does get more, it gets more likable. He's still awful by the end, but I get the relationship more by the end, and I do like the overall story. Like, I love the story. So I forgave the Devin character just because I liked the rest of the story. But if she had made Devin any more likable, this would have been so good. So it does only get a 3-star. Now moving on to our 4 stars, we have I'm Glad My Mom Died. I finally read this and it was just as heartbreaking as I expected. I think my problem with this story is that I did not watch iCarly. I was just outside of the age of watching iCarly. I watched like a tiny bit of Hannah Montana, and then I think iCarly was right after Hannah Montana, something like that. So I never got into the iCarly era, so I didn't really know who this actress was, but everybody said this was so, so good. So I decided to read it, and it is. It's really, really good. It is weirdly sexual, like very sexual in some parts that I wasn't expecting. Like I was kind of like, oh, like I wasn't expecting that. So I do think she could have left out some of that. Like in memoirs, I want to read about a actor's or actor or somebody's story, but I don't necessarily need them to bear everything for us. And I do think she could have held that a little bit back a little bit, just because I don't think she needed to do that. But if she felt like she needed to, that's good for her. I just was a little like, ooh, I don't know if I needed to know. So I love how she told the story. It was really well done. I just didn't really feel any type of connection to it because I don't know this actress. So when I read a memoir, I definitely want to know who the person is when I'm reading them. Like I'm not just reading random people's memoirs generally. I don't really care enough to do that unless it's like a very specific topic. But for this one, it was just a little bit of disconnect. So for me, it was only a 4-star, but it was still really good. Then I read Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man. I actually liked this better than the first one. I think I gave the first one a 3.75. And I also read that one with my mom. We read this one together. We both liked this one better. The ending was a little bit confusing. So this is following our main character, Vera. That scared the crap. I don't know if you could hear the bird, but it's like right outside the window and it scared me. But it's following Vera and it's kind of continuing her story for the first one, but it's her basically trying to solve a murder or a disappearance, and she kind of gathers all the suspects around herself and they become like her found family. And so I don't want to say much more about it because it generally follows the same kind of general plot as the first one. I think this one was done better, minus the ending. The ending was a little bit confusing. My mom and I had a disagreement about what happened at the ending, but she gave this, I think, a 4.5. I think she gave it somewhere between a 4 and a 5, I think. And she had a good time, but we did struggle a little bit with the ending. We kind of had to go back and figure out exactly what happened. So pay attention when you get to the end. It is a little bit confusing. It's not 100% spelled out for you exactly what happened. You kind of have to kind of piece it together a little bit. But we did very much like this. Solid 4-star. Except a surprise 4-star because of how much I've seen people not enjoying this one and how much I thought this was going to be outside of my comfort zone. We had Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. I actually loved this. We're back for Grady Hendrix. I did not like How to Sell a Haunted House last year, so I was a little bit nervous going into this. So good. This is so good. I would recommend the audiobook for this one. I would recommend the audiobook for any of Grady Hendrix's books because I think they're just told really, really well through audiobook. But this was so good. This was so good. I do think I still like the Final Girl support group. That is still a 5-star for me. Still my favorite of his. I think I also still like the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires better. I still think I like that one better. But this is a close third. This is a close third. But I loved it. I loved it. It's following our main character who is a wayward girl. She is sent to this school because she ends up pregnant, and it's a school for pregnant children that their parents don't want to deal with it and want them out of the spotlight. And oh my gosh, I don't understand how Grady Hendrix is so good writing the female experience and female rage and female history of being oppressed and treated like lesser than and treated almost like meat sacks half the time. He had, like, I'm sitting there, when I was reading this, I was like, I swear his wife is writing these books. Like, it's not him writing these books because this is done so well. Normally, I hate when men write women. I just do. They just don't get it. And Grady Hendrix gets it. Like, he understands it, and I don't know how. So yeah, I don't want to say anything more than that. It does have, I would definitely check trigger warnings. This is a lot. There's a lot of trigger warnings in this one. So yeah, I do think it was a bit long. That's why I didn't end up giving it a 5-star. It was a bit long. It did start dragging a little bit in the middle, and I do think the whole witchcraft part is a bit misleading. I do think the witchcraft part didn't even need to be in this story, but then I feel like Grady Hendrix would feel like it wasn't actually a Grady Hendrix novel. Like, I feel like he had to put the witchcraft in there, but I don't think it was necessary. So 4-star, very much love this book. Check trigger warnings if you want to read it. And then the final 4-star, which is like a 4.25, is She's a Lamb. I had an arc of this. This is so good. This is so good. This is dark humor. Oh man, this was such a surprise. And this is one of those books that does an unlikable character so immaculately. You hate this main character. This main character is an aspiring actress, but specifically musicals. She doesn't want to do plays. She doesn't want to do anything like that. She wants to do musicals. And that is really important to the story. And she kind of does anything she feels like she needs to do to become this actress. And she is a horrible, vile person. Like, she is awful, and she does not understand that she's awful. She thinks she is perfect. She thinks she's doing what everybody would do to get her role. And oh my gosh. So watching the downfall of this character, because this is a spiraling book. Think about Black Swan. If you watch Black Swan with Natalie Portman and you loved that, add a very unlikable character and kind of a little bit of humor, like dark humor, and you got this book. So I would recommend this to people who want to see a spiraling descent into madness of an unlikable character. I love this book. I thought it was done so well, and man, I hated that character and I loved every second of this book. And then finally, I think that's everything. We are down to the only 5-star that I had this month, and that was In an Absent Dream. This was such a surprise. This is the 4th book in the Wayward Children series, and I actually just read the 5th one, so that will be in my May wrap up. But this is Lundy's story from the 1st book, and I can't really say anything else because this is a continuation story. Like, some of them aren't. This is a continuation story. Pretty much the first 5 are continuation stories and kind of have to be read together. The 6th one, which I'm about to start, does seem like it is a standalone. I don't know if it'll be wrapped into the story later, into the overarching plot later, but that one does seem like a standalone. This is not. This, you do want to read the 1st book. You don't have to read any of the other ones. You can read the 1st book and then you can read this one. But this is good. This one caught me by surprise because this is easily the saddest one so far. This is horribly sad. It is just, you know what's going to happen in this story, so you're just kind of waiting to see how it happens and why it happens. And I wasn't like super interested in this story, and then I started reading it and I was like, oh like, the emotional impact of this is amazing. I actually would consider rereading the 1st book after having read this, because I think the emotional impact of that character will be so much more after reading this story. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say about it. But I loved it. It made me sob. And so far, I think it is my favorite out of all of them. I love Jack and Jill's story, and I love that it's continued through multiple books. But I think for some reason, this one gut punched me at the end of this book. So I loved it. I gave it a 5-star. I don't think it's going to be a favorite of all time, but I did really, really love this book. So anyway, that is everything that I read in April. Like I said, it was just a lot of mediocre books. I definitely had more 3 and unders than I had 4 and ups. Like, I really didn't have that many. So very sad. Very, very sad. But anyway, that is everything that I have for you today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Definitely make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it. Definitely make sure to subscribe so you miss any future content. I've got a lot of stuff coming out this month as usual. Definitely make sure to comment down below what you guys read this month, what you rated things, if you read any of these, if you have any recommendations based off of these, and any of the normal stuff that we talk about. And I'll see you guys in the next video.